Well, the reason why I asked, because when you said brownstone, my writer mind thought, well, what if I'm not from New York City? Would I know what that is? And I thought, well, I would probably imagine it's like horse poop or something. They're brownstones.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't get that out of my mind. So I really didn't listen to a word you just said. But I assume you said that it was...
That's not what it was.
Okay, well... Hey everyone, welcome to A Grade, the podcast where a college professor and a middle school teacher taste, review, and grade America's best coffee roasters, craft breweries, and more. We have new episodes every Monday morning at 7 a.m. And if you want to help support us, just hop on over to patreon.com/agradepodcast, where you can access all sorts of bonus content, including behind the scenes pictures, videos, and a full report card of every place we've ever gone and graded on the podcast. So you can also click on the link in the episode description wherever you're listening to access all of that good stuff as well. My name, of course, is Joe, and I am joined, as always, also, of course, by...
Hi, everybody. I'm Jackie.
How you doing?
I'm doing great today.
You look great.
Yeah, we are in the swing of the semesters because if you're new listeners, you might not know this, but we're both teachers. So we're full-fledged into the new semesters, and we're still here doing the podcast, which is amazing. Coffee and beer definitely fueling us through a new year.
Yeah, it's always interesting when we transition from summer to the semester and those first several weeks where we still want to just play and go to coffee roasters and craft breweries, but we also have to get back into the balance of still doing that, of course, but also... Yeah, teaching and grading.
Yeah, and I don't know if you feel this way, but for me as a teacher, September feels more like the new year than January does.
That's interesting. To me, September still feels like summer.
Interesting.
So I kind of love and hate it for that reason because I'd rather be at the beach.
Yes, or just outside in general.
Yeah. Well, and it's also one of those things or situations where the fall semester, ironically, is the nice weather semester until the end.
Right.
You start out and it's summery, and then by December, all of a sudden, it's dark the whole day, it feels like, and it's cold and windy.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. But we're still in September. So, and I think even when this podcast drops, it's still going to be in September. So this is all still relevant in the future.
Speaking of scheduling, we were at Aficionado Coffee Roasters, I believe, for last week's episode.
Yes, definitely listen to that episode.
Yeah,
if you haven't.
That was part of a little journey that we took into Manhattan. Obviously, that's New York City. And we decided to hit up some coffee roasters because we were going to the Museum of Natural History, as we mentioned in that previous episode. So we stopped by this awesome place, Aficionado Coffee Roasters. Yeah, like Jackie says, definitely check out that episode. Just check out that roaster because it was pretty great. But if you want to hear our full thoughts, it should be the previous episode that we did. And we had time to sneak in a second coffee roaster before the museum, which was very exciting. So we kind of tend to do that. We map it out where we might go to one place and then on the way hit up a second one. And that's exactly what we did this week, or for this week's episode, with Solid State Coffee Company. Is that what they're called?
Yes.
They're not coffee roaster? Oh,
that
see?
We'll have to fact check as the podcast goes on. You'll actually see it as well in the title because that is fact checked. Yeah. So the title of our episode will tell you the official name, but it is called
That's
Solid
true. That's
State.
a good point. When I edit it, I will figure that out.
Yeah.
Solid State Coffee, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. God, this is unprofessional.
Listen, if you're coming for the professional review, you are at the wrong place.
Well, so here's the thing that I wanted to start out with saying about this place.
Okay.
Because... Is that okay?
Yeah, get right into it.
Okay.
I'm excited.
I know we usually say, oh, here's the grading rubric and that sort of thing. Look, if you listen to the podcast, you know the grading rubric. If you haven't listened before, you'll figure it out. We'll let you know.
We'll go through it step by step anyway.
Well, so this is the place that we went to today. We, like we do oftentimes with every place, kind of do a little bit of preliminary research because obviously, how do we know where these places are? Google Maps, basically, unless somebody recommends it or whatever. And I think this place on Google Maps has a 4.9 rating, maybe, that's 4.9 stars out of 5, which is pretty outrageous. And it also looks pretty cool from the Google pictures. So anything that has that high of a review, we sort of feel almost obligated to check out. And since we were only able to do 2 places on this trip, I had picked Aficionado, and this was another one that stood out to me, but I let you pick the second place we would go to, and you chose Solid State.
Yeah, I liked the look of it. I liked the pictures of the coffee. And it was interesting because when we actually got to the city, I loved aficionado coffee so much that I felt like it was going to be really hard to go to another place after that experience. It's like reading the exceptional A grade paper or watching the exceptional movie or reading the best book you've ever read. It makes things that come next really hard to compare. So I was going into Solid State, even though I was excited and it was my pick, sort of. I was going in feeling a little weary because we had such a good experience at Aficionado that I wasn't sure how Solid State would ever even compare to that.
I always tell my students for presentations, you're better off going first.
Yes.
Because if somebody goes before you and the standard is now the standard set wherever that is.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm going to do a side note because I don't think this episode will take that long.
You can do as many side notes as you want.
Oh my God. Awesome.
I take that back.
Yes. So we
You
had
get one side note.
Okay, this is my one side note. We had this guest speaker at a conference day we had before the school year started, and this guy was so good. He had everybody on the edge of his seat, and he was just such a good speaker. He had good command of the crowd. He was funny, almost like a comedian. I'll have to put his name out somewhere on social media just so that I can give him the shout out. But the person who came after.
Yeah,
you had a
exactly.
bunch of teachers that literally were getting up to use the bathroom because they couldn't wait during the last guest speaker because it was so exceptional. It just kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah,
and
it's
this
true.
Poor guy that came next. If any of my teacher friends are listening, I know a bunch of the people at my school are listening to this podcast. We have a really nice person who does the technology, and he's this sweet, very soft-spoken person, but he's going up there talking about Google Classroom and updates in our school's Wi-Fi. And how do you go after this like really charismatic speaker to talking about Wi-Fi?
Hate it when that happens.
So that's kind of what I felt like. I felt like it went from the guest speaker to the Wi-Fi description. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, that's basically sort of my experience as well. I mean, Aficionado was interesting too because it was one of those places where, I mean, if you go back and listen to other episodes, and it will happen again, sometimes we get to a coffee roaster and we basically order and there's really nothing there keeping us. Or there isn't a bathroom and we're immediately thinking, all right, let's go. Aficionado was a coffee roaster was the opposite, where we were kind of bummed that we had to leave because we did want to hit up this other coffee roaster. We might have stayed there another half an hour, 40 minutes, just hanging out, doing work, whatever. And that's what was one of the reasons why we loved that place. Solid State, a little different, which I guess can get us into our first of 4 grading rubric categories,
Woo!
those being
Atmosphere and ambiance, service, coffee, and food.
See how I weaved that in?
Yes, you did. That was really good.
I did weave it in
I
eventually.
guess after a year of podcasting, we're hopefully getting a little bit better.
Let's hope and pray. For sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So the first grading rubric category, obviously, once more, is atmosphere and ambiance. Do you want to take that away? What did you think
Sure.
about the ANA?
So right away, what I
The
did
ANA, as the kids
is
call it.
the ANA. What I noticed about the ANA right away was that Solid State is on a really cool block. It's on a really quiet block in New York City.
It's basically the Upper West Side, not far from the Museum of Natural History.
Right. It's actually right by, not far from Central Park at all. You're probably a block or two over from Central Park, which is really cool. But it's on a very quiet street with a lot of brownstones and almost very residential, where you would miss it if you weren't specifically looking for it, because it is the first floor of like a 3-story residential building. And there was a sign outside that said Solid State, and then there were a couple of tables outside. So because of that, you were able to know that, oh, this isn't a home, this is a business. And you go down a couple of steps to get kind of to the first floor, and then you walk into Solid State Coffee. When I walked in, the first thing you notice is that there are no tables in there. So this is kind of more like a takeout situation, I think. There were tables outside, but not that many. And there wasn't a lot of room inside at all. What they did have, which was cool, was a bar on the wall at standing height. So while you were waiting for your coffee, you could stand onto the side of the space. It was very small space. Really, the only thing that was in there was a place for you to stand in line. And there was a line when we got there, almost out the door. And on the right, there were some vending machines. Then you had the coffee bar, and then you had the standing bar on the side. But I mean, this was a very small space. It was very small, thin, and long, but it was really cut off as well by the kitchen and the back. So I don't know, how big was the space? It was very small.
Well, it was almost the equivalent. Why can't I talk today? It was almost the equivalent. I need to enunciate.
Yes.
Or have more coffee. It was almost the equivalent of a railroad apartment, but as a coffee roaster.
Exactly. That's exactly what I would say as well.
Yeah, and it was also sort of the definition of a hole in the wall because, as you said, you walked down the steps. There was just a few steps, and then it was a storefront, sort of glass storefront in the wall, basically. Really cool. A couple other things you said. You mentioned brownstones. Is that common knowledge for people who aren't from New York City? Do other cities have buildings called brownstones?
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure. Some of our listeners will have to message us and let us know if you have brownstones in your city.
Well, the reason why I asked, because when you said brownstone, my writer mind thought, well, what if I'm not from New York City? Would I know what that is? And I thought, well, I would probably imagine it's like horse poop or something. They're brownstones.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't get that out of my mind. So I really didn't listen to a word you just said. But I assume you said that it was...
That's not what it was.
Okay, well... Speaking of railroad buildings or derailing
Yeah.
the podcast, I think I've done that successfully.
Yeah, brownstones are apartment buildings in New York City.
They're not made of poop.
Brooklyn, no, not at all.
Not that I know of.
No.
Yeah.
And
I have a new goal for this episode, which is to just derail you.
Just derail me
constantly.
And lose my train of thought the entire time.
Trains.
We're using a lot of train analogies today. It's like that day that you only talked in words that started with a Q.
Yeah, that's what happened. I used like 3 Q words and
really
you lost
impressive.
your freaking mind.
It's really impressive.
Yeah, I am smart. That's true.
Not that many Q words.
Yeah, well, it's fun to be quippy.
And quirky.
And quirky. It's quintessential, actually.
Anyway.
All right, I'll quit.
Yes.
And be quiet. What?
See, it is a little extreme. You're way too good at that.
Yeah, I have no qualms about it.
You should put that down on your resume. I can have entire conversations only using keywords.
And they'll be like, that's not anything.
Like, you are not getting hired for that, actually. So brownstones are apartment buildings in New York City. They're actually beautiful. They're the ones you would see in a TV show, like even
they're
Sex
like
and
3
the
or
City
4
units
stories.
and stories, and they're really expensive. So this was in a really nice residential, quiet New York City neighborhood. It almost felt a little Brooklyn-y where we were.
Yeah,
it was really nice.
It had that kind of not big city feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And inside it was cool. On the left-hand side, they had the menu and it was handwritten. You really liked it.
Yeah, I saw that on Google Maps and I liked the fact that they just had the menu drawn on basically, what was it, brown paper or whatever.
Yeah.
And
against a brick wall.
Yeah, to me that screams the hell with you if you don't like our coffee. You know, this is it.
And it was a really simple menu.
It was great.
Was maybe 5 things on the menu, and one of them was a pour over.
Yes.
But we weren't able to get that, which we can probably
we'll talk about that in a moment.
That later. But maybe that is a part of atmosphere and ambiance. It was very crowded.
I guess it is. Yeah, it was crowded.
And we did wait online, and it was around maybe 11:30 a.m.
on a Sunday.
Sunday, so you could expect it to be crowded, but that did impact the experience a little bit.
Sure.
But luckily we were able to get an outdoor table, which was nice because we were able to sit with our coffee for a little bit, which really heightened the experience and made it a little better for me.
That was another thing that I sort of mentioned last week about how it's kind of bullshit to me that people think New Yorkers are mean, because somebody who was at that table came over and said, "Oh, are you guys looking for a table?" Because we were sitting on the curbs like crazy people, just about to scarf coffee and pastries. And we said, "Yes, we are looking for a table." And they said, "Oh, we were going to leave anyways. Why don't you take ours?" Very nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice person thing to do.
That happened to us at Southdown too.
Yeah.
The other day. We were at a coffee roaster close here in
So if
in
you
town.
don't think if you don't think New Yorkers are nice. Go yourselves.
Oh, are you going to
I'm
beep
gonna
that one out?
it. Yeah,
Nice.
write down the time so I can
Okay,
beep it. Yeah.
what is it?
It's 5 minutes. No, it's this is going to be rough to edit. Yeah. Once I figured out how to put in beeps, it was over because
Yeah.
I can beep out anything I say now.
So, with all that being said, I think the last thing that we have to do is the bathroom corner.
Oh, yeah. Ugh, cue the sad trombones.
Wah, wah. I did it too.
Yeah. As you should. Well, I don't know if there was a bathroom. I didn't see one, and I just kind of assumed there wasn't one. I got the feeling like there was not a bathroom situation there. I didn't see one.
Now, this is interesting because normally this would drive me crazy, but it didn't bother me as much in this situation because there really were no tables inside, and this place was clearly set up like a takeout, so it didn't outrage me like it has in other places. However, it does significantly impact my atmosphere and ambiance score because if we had gone to this coffee roaster first and weren't doing it in between another one that had a bathroom and the museum, which had a bathroom, we would have only stayed for 30 seconds. We wouldn't have sat down outside. So it didn't particularly impact my experience this time, but it's going to heavily weigh in my grade.
Yeah, I think that's sort of why it's important to understand what we're really looking at when we do the podcast, because, I mean, the reality is the experience for somebody who lives right there in the area might be very different than the experience of somebody like us who says, well, do we want to go out of our way and travel to that place? And that really is what we look for on the podcast. We look for these places that we call destination coffee roasters, destination craft breweries, destination whatever else we go to visit. And is it something worth going out of your way to? If there's no bathroom, if it's going to be crowded or there's not going to be any place to sit, that's just the reality of the situation. I mean, they don't have a lot of space to work with. It's not anything of their fault. It's just the reality of the space that is there. So when I think about my atmosphere and ambiance grade, yes, I think it is impacted by all of these factors. But that's not to say that I think it's a bad atmosphere and ambiance per se. It's just that it's limited in terms of its capacity to allow you to really unfold yourself and enjoy it in those other ways, like we were talking about last week with Aficionado, where, yeah, we could have stayed there for quite some time, whether inside or outside. They had a really nice setup, and they were pretty small too, that coffee roaster. So a lot of it does come down to practical physical limitations, but again, as we always say at the end of the day, what is the actual experience? And they can do as good of a job as they want with it. And I think it was relatively a pretty cool job. It looked pretty cool aesthetically with the brickwork and that sort of thing. So it was definitely interesting. And I think, as I was saying, for locals, I see why they would really like this as kind of a local, cool, hip hotspot for all of those reasons.
And I see a lot of people that live around there using it as a takeout spot, not as a sit and work spot. This is not a place that you're going to sit and work. This is a place that you're going to grab your coffee and go for a walk in Central Park or grab your coffee before work.
So what do you think for atmosphere and ambiance grade?
I think with all that being said, I'm going to go C-.
Yeah, I've said before that if you don't have a bathroom, I can't give you a C, which is satisfactory. But I understand that in a case like this or a situation such as this one, it's just maybe not as applicable. So I liked the design. I liked the sort of aesthetics. Again, there was nothing that really stood out to me or screamed to me in terms of a unified theme. The idea of solid state, I don't know what that means.
No, there was nothing on the walls, no pictures, no anything to even give it a sense of feel or community or anything like that.
Yeah, so I'm going to go C just because I thought it was fine. It was everything that I would at least expect in terms of it being clean and orderly, and it was pretty fast, the service, which we'll get into next, that sort of thing, which affects the atmosphere and ambiance. So nothing that blew me away, but nothing that really destroyed my experience either from that standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's about the range. And for me, again, my preference for a coffee roaster is somewhere that there's multiple places to sit. You could stay for a while. You have ceramic glasses that they give you, and there's seating indoor and outdoor. That's my vision of the A-grade coffee roaster. You might like a takeout place if you're a listener and not mind too much. This would be a decent takeout place. They have good atmosphere and ambiance for a takeout place.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads us, of course, to service, which I guess I go with.
Yes.
I start. So service, again, it's pretty limited because it was busy. There was a line. I'll talk about this more when we get to coffee for the next grading category. How whenever there's a line and I get that sense that it's busy, I typically avoid ordering a pour over coffee because that does take longer. But anyways, that's all to say that like, I didn't have much time or opportunity to talk or discuss with the staff and the baristas about the beans and the options and that sort of thing. I mean, I asked a few questions. I pointed out that they had a Bellwether roasting machine, which they have at Fundati Coffee, which was awesome to see live and in person when we went there. Shout out to Alicia and Fundati Coffee. If you go back in our episodes, you can hear our review of them. You can see, listen to our interview with her, which was really cool. But I don't know. I mean, the service was kind of, it was fine to me. Like, it was quick, it was prompt, it was orderly, but there was really not much of that engagement. I mean, again, when I pointed out the Bellwether machine, he didn't seem to really know what I was talking about, I think. Like, that's not what I mean. I mean, he knew what the Bellwether machine was, but he seemed confused. I think that I knew what it was, maybe.
Yeah, and
I think I threw him off.
He said they only use it for their iced coffee.
I thought he said that they only used it to roast decaf.
That's what it was.
Or maybe
yes.
it was a certain type of bean.
Yeah, you're right.
He didn't seem very excited
decaf.
by it.
Yeah, no.
Because I pointed out that I was kind of excited because I'd never seen another Bellwether in the wild. Again, I should clarify, a Bellwether coffee machine. If you Google coffee roasters, you'll see the machines are usually, well, I don't want to make a fool of myself trying to describe what a coffee roasting machine looks like. Just search for it on Google. But the Bellwether machine is supposedly a zero emissions machine that runs on electric and doesn't pollute as much. It doesn't release nearly as much emissions. And it has something like an iPad and you can program, and it does very specific roasts. So it's kind of a little high tech, I guess. But yeah. And I felt, kind of weird trying to push it or press conversation much more than that because it was busy. So I had a little bit of just kind of back and forth with them, which was nice. But again, it was nothing, just not much opportunity for a whole lot more than that. So that was really the main service experience. There was a point when I actually got my coffee because I wound up going with the espresso, which again, we'll talk about a little bit more in a moment. But she said my name and I was confused because I didn't give them a name.
Yeah.
And normally when I go, they ask for my name. If I go to any cafe or coffee roaster, they'll ask for your name and then they call you by that name. But I hadn't done that. And I was confused for a minute. And I said, oh, wait. And I said, how do you know my name? Because I'm an idiot. And she kind of seemed really taken aback by that. I don't know. It was just kind of weird. And then I realized like, oh, I paid with credit card. So they must have seen it on my credit card, or they must have just put my name in.
Well, it was weird that they called you Joe and not Joseph, which
I thought
would
they
be
called
on
me
your credit
Joseph.
card.
No,
I thought they
called
said
me
Joe.
Joseph.
Clearly, I don't remember this as well as I think I do.
I don't know. It was just kind of a weird exchange, and then I realized I think it was somebody being trained or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just kind of it just felt kind of weird to me. I don't know. So that was really everything with my experience. Again, they were friendly otherwise. They were polite otherwise. It was orderly, as we've said. It came pretty promptly, so nothing really else kind of stood out.
Yeah, the only thing that comes to mind when I think about the service experience here was really assembly line. It was very, this person takes your order, then you stand over here, then this person gives you your drink, and they had a system and they moved, and that's how it works.
Yeah,
and it wasn't,
sense.
there was no rude interactions. I felt welcome there and I felt comfortable there. But
I don't know if I quite felt that way, honestly, because there were a couple times where, because it was so crowded, I don't know.
I thought the guy who took our order was nicer than I had expected him to be.
Well, that's sort of my point.
Because
is that,
they were so busy, I thought it was going to be much quicker.
Well, there was also this like really strong hipster vibe.
Yeah.
And there was a point where this woman kind of tried to scoot around me, and she did the very emphatic sort of "excuse me," just very like with too much energy in the "excuse me," and I was just like, "Yeah, sure, fine." And you could have just said it like a normal human; that would have been okay too. But there were other friendly people there. Obviously, the person who gave us their table. I was holding the door open for some people with a stroller when we were leaving, and they were very happy for that. And I was like, "Yeah, of course." I'm not a psycho. I'm not going to slam the door in the stroller's face.
So, non-psycho Joe.
Yes.
That they know your name. What grade would you give service?
Oh, I shouldn't have told my name. Shit. That's not good. I'm going to go C for service. I thought it was fine. Again, when I say C, that's not by any means, what would you say? That's not by any means supposed to be a bad grade. It's just It was fine. I didn't have really bad experience. I didn't have an outrageously great experience, and I think that does speak or come back to what we were speaking about with the atmosphere and ambiance and the layout and the setup. Maybe if we went there during a less busy time, we would have had more interaction and exchange. But hey, we went to Aficionado Coffee Roaster basically the same time.
Yeah.
And that was more of the type of service experience that we, again, just typically like. So that's all to say that I think if you go there, I don't think it's a bad service experience by any stretch of the imagination, but it wasn't anything in our trip that really blew me away.
Yeah. I went C-. I thought,
oh, Jackie's coming in hot.
yeah, I think my standards are a little bit high for coffee roasters and craft beer breweries to build that community feel, and still C is satisfactory. It's still a good grade. It just, for me, it was C-.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
You just do it more eloquently.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyways, that leads us to coffee.
Coffee.
And let's jump to food.
Yeah.
It's almost like I want dinner.
Yes. Right after this, we get dinner.
Coffee, what do you think?
So actually, coffee was surprisingly really good.
I thought it was the best part of the experience.
Loved my cappuccino. I have made the switch officially from lattes to cappuccinos so that I get a little bit less milk flavor. And I had a lavender cappuccino that I thought was nearly close to perfect. It was delicious. It was a perfect mix of lavender. There was some lavender sprinkled on top, and oat milk and espresso. It was really balanced. It was really good. I was already heavily caffeinated, but I was going to drink it all because I really liked it.
That's interesting because I felt as if what did you get, cappuccino?
A lavender cappuccino.
Lavender cappuccino. I felt as if once I got it sort of mixed, it was much better.
Yeah.
But that makes sense. That's sort of what happens with the cappuccino. So,
and remember, now you're having cappuccinos instead of lattes,
yes,
which is a different drink.
Yes.
You're going to taste more of the coffee and less of the milk and the...
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was really good. I mean, this was one of those places where, and I was sort of glad that I went with the espresso instead of just regular coffee. I think... And I'm glad I did that. And I think that's sort of my go-to now, because normally if I want to get the pour over and they don't have it, I go with a Americano or just the drip coffee. I mean, you can go with both of those, but honestly, I feel as if in terms of really experiencing the beans themselves, getting the espresso is a more true testament to their quality of beans. And I really feel this way, especially because we've been going to, shout out to Southdown, a lot lately because they opened up a new place very close to us, and their espresso is so good. It's rich, it's full-bodied, it's got this sort of creamy, salty sweetness to it. It's so much better than when you go to a doo-doo coffee shop and you get an espresso shot and it just tastes like, ugh. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you don't want your espresso to taste like that. And so I know now what that A-grade standard is for espresso, and theirs pretty much matched it. It was really good quality espresso.
I was really shocked at how good it was.
I was too.
Coming off our last episode, we had the best pour over maybe that I've ever had in my life. And I'm like, how do you go from that again to another place? And then I took my first sip and I was so pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Surprised?
You can't talk either.
No, we're losing it.
I think we need Din Din.
We'll speed through this last category. So I thought it was really great. The coffee.
Yeah, I thought it was really great. I'm gonna go. Wait, do I go for letter grade? Do I give my letter grade? All right.
I think.
Yes, you go.
I am going to go A-. I think it was really great.
I'm gonna go S tier for solid state. No, I'm gonna go A- as well to make this podcast as boring as possible. The hell, man.
I know, we never argue anymore.
Well, you're right. It's really great coffee.
The only time we ever will get like heated is when there's no bathroom.
I'll tell you what, I'll think of something before the end of the episode to get you heated with.
All right,
That's a promise that you can count on.
Okay.
Are you
Shake
ready?
on it. Yes.
Okay. I'm shaking from across the studio.
From this podcast lab.
The podcast lab. Ooh,
Can we call it a
that.
lab, not a studio?
Yeah. I think that works really
well.
The
lab.
Anyways, food.
You start us off.
So that was another one where we kind of had too much food at Aficionado, maybe.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we didn't want another.
I didn't know what to get.
Sandwich.
I mean, they have, I think, a full menu. They do avocado toasts and sandwiches and really cool stuff. It looks like their food and coffee game is the best part of this place, which again is why I totally get that locals especially would love this spot.
And give it a 4.9, definitely.
Yeah, like I'm not surprised by that,
Yeah.
thinking about people who would go there on a daily basis, especially.
On the way to work.
It would be
on
a
the way to
great place
walk.
to have right around the block if we lived there, or if we lived here. Obviously, I live here, but if a new place opened up like that, I would be very happy. Was what I'm
What
saying.
would we do if, would we go there or aficionado? Maybe, okay, let's save that for the end of the
Good question.
episode.
So the food, I wound up just going with a cardamom bun, which I thought cardamom was a spice or something. So I expected it to be like an Indian bun or something. And instead, it was more like a Cinnabon pretzel. It was really unique and it was really good pastry. And I thought overall it was really great stuff. I was very happy with it because it felt as if I was getting away with eating a Cinnabon without actually quite having a Cinnabon. It was probably just as bad for you as a Cinnabon is, but I thought it was really good, and it looks like they have a lot of other really cool stuff. So to me, their food game, much like their coffee game, seems to be pretty dialed in.
Yeah, I thought it was really good as well. I thought it was really unique, which you don't always get. It looked like they had a lot of good options. I thought the food was strong, just like the coffee.
Yeah, so I'm going to go for food grade. Like I say, it's hard to say unless you try a lot more or ideally everything. But based on that cardamom bun I had, it was really good. So I'm going to go B+ for food. I think it's got to be above average for sure because I'm basing it on the quality of that bun and everything else I saw on the menu. Again, have I had better pastries, better buns? Probably, but I've also had far worse or inadequate ones. So it was an adequate bun.
My food grade, actually, I also put B+, and I was very disappointed about that because I was thinking, again, very boring.
God
but
damn it.
It was B+ food.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that's fair enough. So what are our 4 grades so far?
So for atmosphere and ambiance, you gave a C, I gave a C-. For service, you gave a C, I gave a C-. For coffee, we both gave an A-, and for food, we both gave a B+. Very interesting. So our atmosphere and ambiance and service was average, and coffee and food was above average.
I think I know my grade. I think I'm confident, satisfied.
I think I know mine as well.
You think or you know?
I know.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
3, 2, 1, B. God damn it!
I thought you were gonna say B+. I was gonna argue for a B.
This is disgusting. This is awful. That's actually a really good grade considering that there's no bathroom.
Yeah.
I mean, we've straight up been like, okay, we're not giving it a satisfactory grade because there's no bathroom. So I think that's a testament to the fact that what they do really well. And again, it is a place where I don't know if I can necessarily recommend going from out of town if you get there and you have to use the bathroom and you're stranded. But if you're in the area or you're certainly exploring New York City and you're looking for a really great coffee roaster, this is definitely one that I would recommend.
And I would say also that there are a lot of things that you can pair this coffee roaster with. For example, you can pair it with a walk around Central Park. You can pair it with a trip to the Museum of Natural History.
Just like we did,
which was great because all of a sudden the bathroom doesn't matter because you have your cup of coffee and then you know you're going to the museum.
Yep.
What I would say too about the bathroom conversation is that this place, in my mind, was clearly set up for takeout.
Yeah,
When
I
a
would agree
place
with that.
is clearly set up for takeout, the lack of a bathroom doesn't bother me as much. If you have tables set out and you have this whole beautiful place for people to sit, that's when it really bothers me.
Well,
But
it does bother me too when I go out of my way just to go to a place. This is why, like I said, it is a B and not a different grade.
Yeah.
Because I would caution people exactly that if you are, well, maybe not on a road trip because it doesn't necessarily make sense to drive through Manhattan, but if you are from out of town or you want to go into the city, you might have to pair it with something else, and you may not want to do that normally otherwise. But it's not the end of the world. You could still make it work. The coffee's good enough to do that.
Yeah, I think so. And like we said too, I think when we talk about recommendations, that's definitely how I would recommend this place. I wouldn't recommend you go with a laptop or a book or anything like that.
Well, you can't. Yeah.
I would recommend that you go grab a cup of coffee, a little pastry, and take it on the go.
Make sure you don't step on any brownstones.
No brownstones.
You buy
Imagine
the brownstones.
living right on that street, getting that coffee, I think we'd still
So
walk
which do you
to
think is better,
Aficionado.
aficionado or solid state?
Aficionado's just more my
Yeah. Jen.
vibe
Yeah.
of coffee roaster, so I
Yeah.
might be partial to that, but I really loved Aficionado, and I would say that it's more of a destination place than Solid State.
Yes, aficionado, I would say if you want to find a really great coffee place, go find it, go visit it. Whereas solid state is a little different.
And
Still great coffee though.
honestly, going to these
They're
two
both great
places
coffee.
back to back, I'm really impressed and proud of the New York coffee game
Yeah.
because these were two of the better coffee experiences we've had with really good high quality beans, and it's got me excited to try out other places in Manhattan and the New York boroughs.
It also shakes up the A Grady Award nominees,
Yes.
which we haven't announced yet because we're still doing a few more places, obviously, before the end of the year. We do the A Grady Awards at the end of the year, but if we find more places like this, who knows who's going to get nominated and who's
Who
going to win.
knows?
There's a lot more to come with that. So that's
Yeah.
a B grade from A Grade Podcast for solid state coffee something in the Upper West Side of Manhattan.
Yes.
You heard it here.
You heard it here. That's a B.
And I think we should. What should we do now? Should you want to go play some poker? So you love playing me in poker.
I will never
Why?
play you in
Is it because you
poker
don't like
ever
to?
again.
Is it because you don't like losing?
No, because we
Because you don't
tried
like
to
losing.
play on this beautiful day
It's okay.
on this beach in Positano, Italy, and you ruined my entire day by going all in on the
Well,
second
you ruined
round.
your entire
so there's
day by-
no
by
point of
losing.
playing poker with you.
Yeah,
oh,
but-
this is what you're doing to make me mad.
What are you
You're
talking
making me
about? I'm just
outraged.
stating facts.
You said about 20 minutes ago. I'm
I
rewinding.
said, I'm saying
that you were
facts.
going to make me mad, and I'm going to be cool as a cucumber.
Really? Because your face is red all of a
Oh,
sudden.
I'm angry. I'm triggered.
I knew I could do it.
I'm triggered.
All right, I should probably go.
Well, I think next week we might have a special episode coming up.
Yes,
A little
we're-
different one, not
Yes.
a craft beer brewery or a coffee roaster, but somewhere else.
Yes.
And then we'll be back to our normal scheduled content again.
We will be at. I'm going to tease it. I'm going to say what it is.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
We're going to be at Yankee Stadium.
Yes,
We're going to do our first baseball stadium review.
Yes, we are going to go to the Bronx. I think
Yeah.
we're going to use the same categories:
Why the hell not?
atmosphere and ambiance,
Yeah,
service,
it's going to be hilarious.
food, and beer.
Yeah,
It's perfect.
it's perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, and we'll give a grade for Yankee Stadium because you know what? We do say coffee roasters, craft breweries, and more.
Yes.
And this is the more.
This is the more.
This is the more.
That word "more" is really important. It allows us to basically
key.
just grade anywhere we go.
Well, that's the plan moving forward, obviously.
And
but we will
also-
be back to coffee roasters and craft breweries after that.
I wanna be a part of it.
Copyright.
New York.
Copyright. Stop.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll get
Good
taken
thing I'm
off the air.
such a bad singer that no one's even gonna know what I just sang.
Yeah. All right.
Time to go.
We're done.
Time for dinner.
All right. So thank you guys for listening. Like we said, support us, love us. We are needy and,
Love us.
and
Love
desperate.
Me.
So go to Patreon. I'm just getting sad with my plugs now.
Love
go to
me.
patreon.com/agradepodcast. Give us money.
$3 a month. Honestly, it
I
was.
thought it was $2 a month.
Oh, you could do $2 a month.
Make it 3. What the hell?
Yeah. But you know,
It's less than the
just,
cost of a cup of coffee.
Just a little to,
And you get bonus content.
and we're giving out some awesome recommendations, hopefully, and giving the money right back to the
Or
businesses.
share us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Stitcher, Tinder, Grindr. Share us on all the apps. Just post links to any episodes you like. Apparently that helps.
Yeah.
I'm really terrible at that type of social media marketing. But yeah, if you like us, share us. If you like us even more, patreon.com/agradepodcast, or you can just click on the link wherever you're listening to this episode.
Yep.
There should be a link in the episode description. And you get goodies. We
Yes, we
like
do.
to give goodies.
Love us.
Yeah, you get behind the scenes content.
Love
and
us. Love us.
and we need
us.
love.
Yes.
We need help.
starved. We're love starved.
That's why we're doing this. But no, and thank you to our current patrons. We do actually have
Quite a few now.
Quite a few now. So we really appreciate you guys. We couldn't do it without you. That's for damn sure.
Yes.
And we will have more goodies for you guys too in the future.
Oh, I can't wait. Yes.
Yeah. So until next time, thank you all again for listening. Hope you join us again next week. And until then, stay safe out there. Be well, drink well, and see you then.
Bye.
Bye. Is that it?
Yes.
All right. Are you done?
Yes.
Say something funny.
Fart.
Oh, God.